There seems to be a lot of revered interest in Maynard James Keenan, singer of Tool, A Perfect Circle, Pussifer, and a lot of fans have said some really astounding things about him.
Only probably the biggest genius in the entire world.
God amongst men.
I really don't know what to say. It's Maynard.
I love drawing people, and his lyrics are like a muse to me.
This guy right here, Maynard, we named him after the guy from Tool, man.
I've always known him to be so mysterious, such an enigma, larger than life, like just a rock star. He would say just a poet.
Though Maynard has put out much in the form of art and little snippets of his life here and there, there's still a lot of mystery surrounding this man. How he thinks, why he focuses on a multitude of different things, and the interesting relationship between him and his fans. I feel that whenever there has been an attempt in the past to take a deep dive into the mind of Maynard, we usually end up with a very basic summary of his life and career, or are given some trivial information that doesn't give us much further insight into understanding Maynard. He is undoubtedly a much more complex man in the eyes of those that are familiar with his work, especially when you compare him to your typical celebrity. Maynard often goes off on guru-like tangents during interviews, on stage, and even in some of his direct quotes from his book, A Perfect Union of Contrary Things, which tie in a lot of different ideas that, if we dissect and break down, can give us insight into the core values and methods of this man. In this video, I will attempt to point out some of the most common themes that reoccur when it comes to Maynard and present them in a more compact and outlined format to see what of value we can learn from the mind of Maynard James Keenan. When I first heard the intro to Third Eye, the version that's on the Salival record, I thought it might be representative of what the band stood for. It's the one that has Timothy Leary's voice intro in it.
Think for yourself. Question authority. Think for yourself. Question authority.
Plus, at an early point and becoming familiar with Tool's music, the idea of reaching a higher state of consciousness seemed to be very prevalent. Or at least that's what many would imply when they would try to get me into Tool's music. At first, listening to songs like 46 and 2, Lateralis, Third Eye, Anima, Fear Inoculum, and Reflection, you get the sense that personal evolution, healing, and reaching a higher state of consciousness is a common theme of Maynard's songwriting. One of the most interesting stories you get to read about in Maynard's book is one about when he was in the army during the mid-80s. During Maynard's time in the army, he had a roommate named John, which Maynard witnessed struggle to get through the prep school segment of the military. John was there primarily because of the wishes of his parents, and would subject himself to a lot of torturous hazing from other soldiers. Maynard also witnessed, however, that John was a very talented piano player, and would often scold him, telling him that he shouldn't be listening to assholes that are trying to tell him what he should be doing with his life. Maynard would say more of him, and I quote, "He was smart and did all the testing properly, and he ended up getting his appointment to West Point and came out as a private. Of course, there is a punchline. John couldn't take the pressure and later committed suicide. Who knows? He may have gone down that path anyway, even if he had become a pianist. But at the time, I knew something was wrong, that he wasn't supposed to be there." Another fellow soldier who Maynard was close to, named Sarah Yaguno, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, shared in the book that when Jim saw someone who wasn't following their heart and was choosing the wrong path, he tried to bring out what they should be focusing on. He was always impatient with people who just followed the crowd. He had a name for people like that. He called them tools. It seems that the tendency to follow his own intuition was something that was ingrained into Maynard from very early on. During his childhood, Maynard was moved around a lot between schools because officials kept changing the district lines in which his home resided in. Of this, Maynard has said, "I was always introducing myself to new people. As an only child, I kind of lived in my own head anyway, so I brought my friends with me, having many voices in my head. The glass half empty view of this is isolation, but the glass half full version is independence. I wasn't subjected to the hierarchy that had already been established with these kids who grew up together and who knew each other's faults and flaws and what they could do well. I wasn't pigeonholed into the established social order. Every time I had to make an important decision, I could rely on my own instincts. I could rely on 3 voices: my head, my heart, and my gut. No outside noise can penetrate a solid sense of self-trust. This same mindset, which apparently became sort of an ideology for Maynard, was also reflective in some of his early musical endeavors. While attending art school in Michigan in 1987, Maynard formed a band called CAD. And after a locally televised performance, Maynard would explain the meaning of the acronym CAD during an interview.
It's not really a band name, it's more of a concept behind what we're all about. It stands for Children of the Anachronistic Dynasty, which is kind of like a bloodline of youth born out of sync with time, out of sync enough to where they sit back and observe rather than just take things for granted.
So it is evident that one of the driving forces when it comes to Maynard is to simply not follow the crowd. Follow your own intuition, choose your own passions, make up your own mind. Though telling people to think for themselves is sort of like a dog chasing its own tail. Case in point, Maynard would go on to say this to a crowd during a concert shortly after the 9/11 attacks in 2001, after the crowd started chanting USA.
You're all going to be really bummed out when you find out it was the USA that did it, but perhaps you guys would like to take the nonconformist oath, so repeat after me. Think for yourself. Question authority. Strive to be different. Strive to be unique. And never repeat things other people say.
This is something that touches upon the very interesting relationship between Maynard and his fans, which I will get into more deeply later in this video. But before that, I want to talk about something else that I think Maynard is really good at, which is getting attention. I was first introduced to Tool's music by a friend while we were, let's just say, mentally altered. At first, I wasn't hooked into the music immediately like I would be when I listened to other bands that I would eventually become a fan of, but I did think that there was something weird going on in the music that I knew was gonna bring me back to listen to them again. The next time I was at a record shop, I went to the section where Tool was, and I picked out the album that had the cover that drew my attention the most, which was Undertow, really. You know, it's the album cover that has what looks like an open rib cage that's trying to eat you. The album cover just grabbed my attention and wouldn't let go. And much of the artwork of the album sleeve seemed to purposely want to provoke you to wanting to find out more. I would come to see that much of Tool's and Maynard's work in general rely on a very similar method in getting attention.
When you're writing songs and titling them, Stink Fist or Prison Sex, you know that you're pushing buttons, but he is able to connect with people's inner Beavis and Butthead. When he calls something Stink Fist, he knows that it's disturbing and provocative and opens up a whole can of worms, but he also knows that it's kind of funny.
I do remember being shocked the first time I ever listened to the Perfect Circle song Judith and hearing the lines, which left me wanting to find out more. Of course, there are other examples such as song titles like Hooker with a Penis, Country Boner, Vagina Mine, and even the band name Pussifer has a sound association to something provocative. The very first Tool music video in which the band members appeared naked with the parental advisory sticker hiding their privates was representative of the provocative nature when it comes to getting attention for Tool.
Oh man, Pussifer, we shipped the first record, V is for Vagina, we were doing great, it all went out. From the time that we started recording V is for Vagina until the day that we actually released it, the record industry fucking collapsed. So all the record stores were open when we started recording. When we released, Tower and Virgin had all closed, all those mom and pops had closed. We were stuck with Target, Best Buy, Kmart, and Target sent our albums back because it said vagina on it. Yeah. I was like, what?
We pissed?
You don't like vagina?
Let's not forget also that one of the first Tool logos was that of a wrench-looking type of object that also resembled male genitalia. Genitalia. Hope I'm saying that right.
Genitalia. We had somebody who had worked with us before, and she did the tracking on the record.
And the girl wasn't offended by your sexist attitude?
Our sexist attitude.
Sexist attitude. What's this? Give it here. Even your name, Tool. People call it as use Tool as penis.
Oh, you
use it as well.
You have a dirty mind.
Yeah, I think you're the one with the sexist
Yeah, of course.
mind right here. I thought about it that way.
It's a woman. See? These are her boobs. No, actually, this is a box right here. This is a wrench that I got from my grandfather's garage.
The yin yang of mechanics school. See? Yin. Yang.
Though the habit of knowing how to get attention was something that Maynard learned from his college days. Before his music career blossomed, it seemed to click in Maynard's head that arousing strong emotions right away from the first presentation was effective in getting people's attention while attending art school circa 1985. Maynard tried to get his fellow students to sign a petition and organize them to try and get the school's foundation to improve some of the classroom's ventilation. His first attempt was not successful, but then Maynard tried again. Maynard recounts how he then drew a very aggressive Sid Vicious on bright red paper for a poster announcing the next student council meeting. He noticed that a lot of people finally showed up because they found the flyer offensive. This was the beginning of him noticing the controversy will get you noticed. This ended up getting Maynard elected student council president. Though provocative, it is often naughty humor that is being used to get a bigger message across. As Maynard explains, our songs were telling people to wake up, stop living in hypocrisy, be true to themselves, but that message had to be tempered. There's an element of humor in all the songs. A friend might say something really funny, and we include a verse based on what they'd said. Satire helps push through the heartfelt emotions and serious issues. That's how you punch the big ideas through. Having sold millions upon millions of records, it seems that Maynard's method of grabbing people's attention has worked. Though once he grabs your attention, it's how he puts words together and delivers them that has led many to consider him a genius and an enigma. Simply from the fact that many agree that there is a complexity to what Maynard does, and the fact that he has such a high output when it comes to his music, it leaves me wondering what is his mentality when it comes to writing. Is it a cathartic experience for him? Does he do it purely for attention? Is it art for art's sake, or is he trying to deliver a really important message? Maynard has shared the personal story of while attending art school in Grand Rapids, Michigan, he would regularly go to local rock and punk shows, and while he was slowly losing interest in pursuing a career in visual art, his interest in expressing himself through music was growing. While enjoying the energetic performances of the bands, he would witness the enthusiastic and at times chaotic reaction of the audience. In his book, Maynard states, "Art exhibitions seemed self-indulgent, and all these sycophants showed up claiming to understand the paintings. It had been so long since I stood in front of something original and said, wow, that changed my life. It felt like advertising and design had no soul, no pulse. Then I look at what they were doing in the visual arts and think, just go get therapy. When I saw a room full of people literally and figuratively tuning into each other to create rhythms and images, it just made sense." So while attending art school, Maynard would start playing in his first few bands. He played bass for a band called Texans and then formed his own band called CAD, in which he sang and wrote all the lyrics. However, these bands eventually broke up and Maynard was not motivated to start another music project since he was discouraged by the lack of commitment and effort he saw from his bandmates. Maynard later on was living in Los Angeles around 1989 and was working at a pet store but was then fired after a while. Then, while searching for work, his dog escaped the backyard of Adam Jones's place where he had left him. While Maynard searched for his dog, he got arrested under suspicion of being intoxicated and then taken to the station because he actually had an unpaid parking ticket. A ticket from a car that he no longer had since it belonged to the pet store he got fired from. Adam Jones and another friend bailed him out, which meant he now owed Adam money. He would then lose his apartment after breaking up with his girlfriend. All this happened within the span of 3 months. He started working sporadically in set design for very little money while sleeping on Adam Jones' floor. It was at this time Maynard saw himself at a crossroads as to what to do with his life and all that frustration that he was feeling. At the same time, Maynard was also feeling frustrated with the music scene that he was witnessing in Los Angeles at the time.
So I would go to these clubs and I would see these bands playing that just seemed they are all focusing on the wrong shit. There was no heart. There was no soul.
Do you remember the bands?
No, I can't do that to them. There's probably still around, like fighting for their lives.
Okay.
But you know, they're pretty.
They're looking. They're just like. But you're talking.
You know who you are.
But you're talking about the standard sort of like, I'm going to make it.
Yeah, we're here.
In show business.
We're
here to make $1 million.
Yeah, we've got some A&R guys coming down. They're gonna check us out, and let's.
Yeah.
We'll try to look like
play the game, right?
Look somewhere between the Chili Peppers meets Nirvana meets Metallica. You know, funny hats and stupid shit. And
no identity of their own.
No songs.
Yeah.
No heart, no songs. Costumes.
Sure. And you felt that.
Yeah, totally.
And you were like, fuck this.
And I'm the drunk guy at the back of the room going, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And somebody enough time, I said that out loud enough times that somebody went, okay, smart fucker. Yeah. You try it.
Right.
You think you can do better.
Right.
And I went, all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was right around the end of 1990, and by 91 we had a record deal and Tool was on its way.
In his book, Maynard states, "The frustration I felt at this time is definitely what got this project off the ground then. I had good friends in Boston, and I had been successful at the pet store, and I believed I was on the right path. Then I lose everything, and I'm living on $400 a month. I needed to destroy. I needed to primal scream, and I needed to be loud enough to make people go, what the fuck was that? I needed to get it out. It was that tipping point where you either become a serial killer or a rock star." Though it does seem that Maynard believes that the poetry within music can be therapeutic for both the writer and the listener, it can also inspire others to do something similar. When it comes to spilling his emotions in his lyrics, Maynard states, "In order to write effectively, you have to write from the spot you're standing in. You have to tap into the pure emotion of where you are, but also the broader picture. The Joseph Campbell of it all. Every 5 minutes of a life is a story if you tap into the archetype that transcends an individual and connects to everybody. I needed to yell my head off. You can't just run down the street breaking shit." Though, as he moved on from some of his earlier frustrations, Maynard would successfully venture off into other facets of life, as we will discuss more later on in this video. Not only does Maynard write and sing to angrily scream his head off, but to also celebrate having survived the hardships of life. Maynard more than once has alluded to prehistoric humans gathering around a fire after a long day of hunting and not being eaten by predators.
Our slave to Mother Nature, to understand her processes and what she wants, and she does not care what you want, so you're having to work around that. So that celebration around the fire at the end of a long hunt or a long agricultural endeavor, that art, that's what it tells the story of what struggles you've gone through. It's the celebration of life along with the struggle of actually trying to survive.
So here we are, clever little talking monkeys trying desperately to type War and Peace before the ink runs out. We began to observe, interpret, and chronicle the chaos until patterns emerged. And then through trial and error, we discovered the appropriate responses to these challenges and daily threats on our lives. And we rehearsed these responses, these movements, these actions and reactions until they became skills. And we rehearsed them not only in context, but out of context as well, in the form of prose, ritual, martial art, etc. So by day, we hunt, we gather, we cultivate, we build. And by night, we dance, we sing, we share, we rehearse, as well as celebrate another day of survival against all odds, all around a central fire. This was a time when the artistic and the utilitarian were in perfect balance, a symbiotic relationship between expression and practical movement. What is Pussifer? Pussifer's many things, but the cornerstone of what Pussifer is an attempt to reconnect with this seemingly lost balance, because we at Pussifer feel that life is too short not to create something with every breath we draw.
In short, art is a celebration of surviving the struggles of life. You can't just focus on the music and expect it to always have the same impact. You have to keep searching for challenges to reconnect to the part of yourself that energizes your creativity. Because in turn, your art will motivate you and others to push through those same challenges. Before my friend ever actually played a Tool record for me, I remember him telling me how the singer Maynard was really anti-God. I can't remember exactly why he said this, but it could have been something to do with songs like Opiate, Jerk Off, and the Perfect Circle song Judith, with, the line, I wasn't sure what to make of it at first, but when I would first listen to Maynard's music, it did surely seem like he had some negative views towards religion. Also hard to ignore the religious undertones in a lot of Tool's album artwork, and even in some of their music videos. This is one concept in which I was really curious as to what Maynard's thoughts really are on. As we've already discussed and we'll discuss more later on, Maynard could just be trying to push our buttons, but is really trying to communicate something else entirely. When Maynard was a young child living in Ohio, his mother and stepfather would take Jim, as he was referred to a lot more often back then. They would take Jim to fundamentalist churches where often the concept of eternal damnation was preached. It was overly stressed that you had to recite Bible verses in order to save yourself from the grasp of Satan's influence. Jim's Aunt Pam comments in the book how Maynard seemed to be in a stage of emotional shock for long periods of time after coming out of church.
You grew up with a lot of religion?
Baptists.
Like
Ohio.
Hardcore Ohio Baptist. I don't know what that means, but I just said it like it was a specific type of Baptist.
A Bible in one hand and a machine gun in the other, ready to go annihilate.
So for the
Michigan was less so. That was
not now. I mean, there, but it's. I think you're right though. I think there's a little bit of a different flavor. There's more of the Nuge flavor, which is less about religion in Michigan.
Yeah,
and more just about like I want to kill things and brown people are scary.
Yeah, I lived around a lot of those people, but most of the people that think that way, I met in Ohio, not in Michigan.
Right.
Most of the people around me in Michigan were everybody's like grabbing a shovel to shovel the snow. It doesn't matter, where you came from.
So the Ohio thing, till you're about 13, you had the Jesus shoved in your head.
Yeah.
Hard.
Every hole.
Yeah.
Every hole. Jesus went in.
You're gang raped by Jesus.
Yeah.
And what did?
It was a Maynard sandwich.
Oh God.
With Jesus bread.
What kind of what was your reaction to that at the time? I mean, did you just lock into step with that shit or what?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that kind of went into it not making a lot of sense, because I'm kind of a logical person and a fairly reasonable person.
Yeah,
and it didn't really. Some of it didn't make sense.
Yeah,
things I saw a lot of holes in people's behavior. Like you say this thing, but you're doing this thing.
Like the stepdad.
Yeah, just none of this makes sense.
Yeah. How do you telling me this and you're doing that?
Yeah.
Maynard's further disillusionment with organized religion came at age 11, when his mother Judith suffered an aneurysm which caused her physical mobility issues and got worse over time, and eventually left her paralyzed and in a wheelchair for the last days of her life. The church they belonged to at the time was not supportive, and some of the parishioners convinced her that her paralysis was God's punishment for her sins. Of this, Maynard would say, "Though I did meet some wonderful people at those churches, people with a solid foundation of family and togetherness, they were caught up in dogma. It was my first brush with, fuck your church. I knew in my heart that the universe is not that ugly, and that nobody's sitting in judgment. There's just shit that happens, and if we all help each other, we can work through it. I knew these people were wrong. What they were saying had nothing to do with what I was forced to learn in Bible study. It was weird, crazy judgment, and it made me not want to have any part of it. Even people in the family told my mother her affliction was God's punishment. Punishment by God for your behavior is not one of the things on the list of how the world works. What fucking God of love is that?" This experience with his mother would later be the inspiration for some well-known song lyrics written by Maynard. For example, 10,000 Days, Wings for Mary, Judith, Jimmy. Though Maynard's rift with religion would start at an early age, his spiritual journey didn't end there. During his art school days, Maynard would delve into the writings of Joseph Campbell, which would catapult him into contemplating the purpose of life even more. At first, Maynard emphatically embraced Joseph Campbell's teachings because he held some resentment towards Christian fundamentalists he knew from his childhood. But then he realized that Campbell's way of breaking down religious thought actually made him appreciate what holding on to a sense of mysticism and spirituality meant. The point of living was life itself, and not to find some hidden meaning, is the lesson that Maynard would take from Joseph Campbell's writings. Though Maynard would continue to have a rift with organized religion, he would hold on to some sense of spirituality. Maynard recounts in his book how he would visit tarot readers and listen to the teachings of spiritual gurus. Maynard at one point went to a psychometry practitioner who made fortune readings through magnetic objects. Maynard gave her a ring of his, and after performing some sort of ritual, the woman asked who Paul was and said that whatever he had going on with him was going to end. Maynard wrote the name Paul on the piece of paper, and then the woman said to also write down the word London. The next time Tool actually played in London, Justin Chancellor would actually step in on bass for Paul D'Amour, who was Tool's regular bassist at the time. He would play on a performance of Sober. Shortly then after, Paul D'Amour would actually end up quitting Tool, and Justin Chancellor would become their next bass player. Maynard would show the other two members of Tool, Adam and Danny, the piece of paper that the psychometry practitioner made him write Paul and London on it, and they were all mind blown by what had just happened. Maynard would delve deep into the teachings of Drunvalo Melchizedek, an esoteric researcher who focused on the concepts of sacred geometry. Around 1994, Maynard would attend a week-long Flower of Life seminar. There, he listened to lectures on the teachings of Melchizedek, such as how the universe vibrates at the energy of the Fibonacci sequence, how seismic shifts would occur, moving the Earth's plates, causing new coastlines such as Arizona Bay, and how a new breed of more evolved humans had begun to populate the Earth that now had 2 more chromosomes to add to the 46 we currently have. A new race of people that Melchizedek called Indigo Children. Some of this might sound very familiar to those that are well acquainted with Tool's and Pucifer's lyrics. Maynard would comment on the seminar. If I built on Melchizedek's principles, not that I understood any of them, at least I could get something out of the classes. I wanted to do more. I wanted to create. I wanted quality of life, and I wanted to take care of my child. I wanted to boil Melchizedek's story down to the basics and to understand the practical nature of geometry, as it applies to emotions, to human behavior, to music, to architecture, to food, to wine. I feel that it is also important to note that Melchizedek made the claim that an ethereal spirit had entered his conscious in order to promote esoteric teachings. So, what does Maynard himself believe exactly? Well, Maynard would clarify, I don't care whether there's aliens or not, and I don't believe in psychic power stuff. I do believe in creative energies. I believe information is out there if you just tune to it. I don't think it's anything spiritual. It's just there. I know on some level, most likely, all that is bullshit. But I'll buy into it because it puts me in a headspace that anything's possible.
People that are godless in some way, if they don't have some kind of belief, for lack of a better term, if you don't believe in magic on some level, your art probably sucks.
Yep.
You got to believe in some kind of magic. Some, I don't mean if it's God or whatever you're into. Like if you're not inspired by, if your heart isn't lifted by some supernatural thing that you've witnessed or you believe in, real or not,
right?
You're probably going to be focusing on your looks, your money,
right?
There's going to be something you're focusing on that has no heart.
When I first heard that Maynard was a big winemaker and that there was a film documenting just how involved he was in his business, the first question that came to my mind was, why? Why would a rich and successful rock star who is in 3 bands want to be so involved on a side business? On top of that, dedicates a lot of his time to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and is at this time now a black belt. He certainly likes to keep himself busy, but with so much success in one area, what is the purpose of being such a multifaceted man? Maynard does talk about this a lot, and has made it clear that he takes his ventures outside of music seriously because it helps him stay mentally grounded. And searching for challenges in other areas of life helps him in better dealing with challenges within his art and personal life, especially when it comes to forces that are outside of his control. When it comes to answering the question, where does Maynard get the self-discipline and energy to be, as his email signature and Twitter bio suggests, a world-class multitasker, paints an even more interesting picture of this man. Maynard has often alluded to the fact that him and his father would have to shovel snow from the non-paved driveway to reach the road that was a quarter-mile from the house. It was this that really started his self-disciplined, methodical, and relentless ways. No point in bitching about the obstacles that were out of your control and in your way.
I think some of the things that I learned the most in Michigan was just that work ethic. Whether you're going to be a cross-country runner, whether you're going to be a wrestler, whether you're going to be a farmer, or just my dad was a high school teacher, and we couldn't even get to school to do our job without plowing out a quarter mile of snow in the driveway. Yeah. So that was just, normal kid was like, well, there's snow. Let's go to bed and play video games. No, that wasn't enough. That wasn't even. It was just ingrained in me that wasn't even an option. We were up early cleaning out the driveway, and then making the 4-mile trek to school.
Friend of Maynard's, actress, singer, and author Moon Yuna Zappa would comment in his book, "I saw unlimited potential in him. Maynard is a batch of raw materials. It's like those reality shows where they tell you to make clothing out of things you find at a recycling center, or give you a bunch of ingredients and say, make a meal out of gummy bears and mustard. It's like he had too many talents. It felt like he was running from something, but his was not a race against an opponent. He was determined to stay ahead of the thing that pursued him, the echo of dismissal and underestimation, as if the mediocrity he must outdistance were his own." The sentiment of running from mediocrity has been echoed by Maynard himself at times.
I've seen a lot of my friends, and peers, or they get successful in a thing, and they think that because they're successful because of this element or this thing that happened, that's why I'm successful. I did that. When a lot of it could just be circumstance. It's just accidental. A million variables came together and put you in this position where you're successful. And then they drive their stake in the ground and go, I know what I'm doing. Well, as soon as you say that you know what you're doing and you're convinced that you know what you're doing, you're dead. You have to grow. Life is absolute change and chaos, and you have to be adaptable. And I think something that's really important to point out to people is, if you're an artist and you're going to be writing songs, making wine, photography, filmmaking, painting, whatever that is, do what feels right to you. Follow a combination of your head and your heart. Like your intuition is important. Your experience is almost as important, if not more. That balance of actual hard work, understanding, using your experiences to move forward with that art, but understand that you are on your fucking own. You are alone. Do what makes you feel like you're successful, or at least setting up the next level of, okay, I've reached that understanding, now let's go to the next level.
I don't see life as you get to a certain point and then you just kind of level it off and coast. There is no such thing as coasting in life. There's always going to be a curveball. There's always going to be change and chaos. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think that chaos and change is good. I'm alive still, and there's so much to learn, so much to know, so much to explore. I guess I just can't really sit still.
In short, Maynard does wine because it struck a chord with him as much as music did. And it was another passion that he eagerly pursued as well. He also feels that doing the hands-on, hard labor work of winemaking and a rough sport like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu keeps up a healthy cycle of challenging life experiences that in turn re-energize the output of his art. Over the years of being a Tool fan, one of the things that has become very apparent to me is the topic of discussion surrounding whether Maynard hates his fans. Much of this stems from the difficulty in getting an interview with Tool in the early years of their career and getting them to talk about the inner workings and interactions of the band. While touring during the Lateralis era, Maynard would also decide to move to the background of the stage when performing next to the drum set, and not up front like your typical rock and roll frontman. Furthermore, a song like Hooker with the Penis, in which Maynard responded to a fan accusing him of selling out, it would give us a glimpse into the complicated relationship that Maynard has between him and those that he would call his fanatics. Also, over the years, Maynard's reclusive lifestyle in Jerome, Arizona has become very apparent, and which he has talked about quite a bit. The question of whether Maynard hates his fans was placed even more into the public spotlight in 2015, when during an interview with the Phoenix Times, it was mentioned to Maynard how a lot of the humor in Tool's music is missed, versus the humor that is found in Pucifer's music, to which Maynard replied, "Yeah, it's there, but people miss it because they're so focused on the other bullshit. It's lost, insufferable people. It's just ridiculous. I'm sorry, can't help them. Way too serious, too much, lighten up." After this, what followed was a bit of a fan uproar, with this comment going viral on the internet. This compelled Maynard to take to what was still then known as Twitter to respond to some of the criticisms, with one user posting, "Hilarious that you can flat out insult your core fan base, then shit in a Ziploc, and they'd still buy it. Now that's talent." To which Keenan responded, "Our core fan base aren't fanatics. They're music lovers and artists and good people. It's the fanatics that are insufferable." He responded to a couple of other fan remarks on Twitter, basically discounting claims that he doesn't like Tool fans, and retweeted a fan's post who said, "Tool fans are way too serious? I can't go a day without drawing a dick on something." Though in all fairness, this was not the first time that Maynard expressed this sort of sentiment towards Tool fans.
You get shit for doing covers?
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine the
never mind. Never mind that my catalog as it stands as originals is larger than most people's, but give me shit about doing covers on top of all the other stuff.
Well, I can't imagine, what the Tool army looks like and what it has evolved into. I can't imagine what type of grown-ups you helped create.
You know that poster you always see, that's like the Neanderthal guy kind of finally he stands upright?
Yeah, that should be just says Tool fan at the end or somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, you got to cut it off somewhere right in the middle before it gets to the end. I'm just kidding, guys. Don't get all angry.
Oh, fuck. All right, so you're doing something.
He hates Tool. Shut up.
Yeah,
I don't hate you.
They can't. You can't win really, because you can only do what you've done once on some level, and eventually, if you try to change it all, you're gonna have a fucking bunch of people going, "No, he's not. That's not the guy he used to be."
Yeah, because he's not 49 or anything.
Yeah, really.
What seems to be the rift between Maynard and the fans is just how serious fans can really take Tool as a band. The high passions can really make the relationship between the fans seem really demanding, which was made clear during the long gaps in between releasing some of their albums.
And I wonder kind of how it is because your band does instill this sense of real passion in people. You couldn't have taken as long as you've taken in.
No, they're extremely, extremely patient people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and some not.
Yeah, I know.
Those are the ones those are the ones we're concerned about. The ones that are not patient.
Can you even get your head around the fact that your music gets people to a point of anger when it doesn't come?
That doesn't make any sense to me. They're rock songs.
So how does it get to the place where it's not just rock songs then?
I don't know, and I guess that's the puzzle. I just don't. I'm just not that important. None of us in this band are that important for you to put that much on us. We're just individuals making art. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not different. I'm not better. None of that. So it will always be a puzzle to me. Why you would want my autograph does not compute to me.
Do you sign them?
No. It's just weird. It's just a weird thing.
So how do you
go ask that stranger at the counter to get an autograph then, because that's about as it makes as much sense to me.
But that digs us into the psyche of the fan and why people are love a piece of art or love a song or love a movie or love something that inspires them to the point where they want to get close.
So ask the song for an autograph. Because we if we're doing our jobs as artists, we're bringing our experience to the table, we're bringing our intuition to the table, but in a way, we're getting the heck out of the way to allow the thing to happen.
Yeah.
So in that getting out of the way, you have to acknowledge that it might not have much to do with us at all.
Yeah.
It's some other thing happening.
Are you good at saying
if
that?
If it's resonating that deep with you, then we've kind of tapped into some psyche thing that has nothing to do with the egos that are doing it. So don't put all the focus on the egos. They're a mess. They're paranoid, they're stubborn, they're arrogant, they're those egos that you constantly are looking at for autographs and some kind of give them accolades. Stop that. Give the piece accolades.
Is that to a degree why you chose after the Einma tour, I should say, to perform from the back of the stage?
Oh no, that was just logistics, sound.
Sound.
Yeah, it's sound because from that position we have now a polygon, so we can all see each other. And the front, if you want a clown, I suppose I could be a clown, but the clown can't see the rest of the band. We can't actually perform better. The mic being in line with the drums, actually there's less bleed into the mic from the cymbals, from everything. I'm not now in front of the guitar or bass cabinets, so there's isolation with the mic, and we can all see each other. And I'm no farther back than Danny, so I don't know why there's an issue.
No issue at all. I think at first it was strange because I'd seen you on that tour, and I enjoyed the traditional framework because as a frontman, you're compelling. And you were wearing, was the body paint tour. So various messages would come up on your body according to the light that you were using.
But I found that I couldn't hear as well.
That's right.
The isolation wasn't proper in the mic. The sound, the front house guy was having a harder time with the sound. And it just ended up unfolding. Oh, look, we just solved a piece of the puzzle. If I don't need to be up front, then now this sounds better. Are you here to watch us dance around, or are you here to hear this music? I think, in my mind, I chose one. You're here to hear these things. We'll put on a show for you. You can watch the show, but the sound is more important.
I agree.
One of the important things to keep in mind is that Maynard has stated before that he never set out to be famous, which is something that can really complicate how he is receptive to the adoration that he receives from fans. In a perfect union of contrary things, it is mentioned how when Tool was about to sign their first record deal with Zoo Entertainment, the band members included a provision that was not originally in the contract. It does not make clear what that provision was exactly, or whether it was officially a part of their record contract, but it seems to have to do with the band members agreeing to keep their private lives, well, just that, private. And that the occupations that were already keeping them busy would always come first. Maynard would go on to comment, "I didn't want to be an animal on display. I needed to find a brake pedal to slow down elements of this opportunity and figure out how to emotionally process it. What was all this extra attention going to do to me? What would it do to my body? My emotional body, my spiritual body, my mental body, my physical body? I had goals, and being famous wasn't one of them." Overall, I think Maynard's best thought on this is taken from this quote. "I was just interested in figuring out how math applies to human behavior, the geometry of emotions and all those things. Then, people started looking to me like I had something to offer, like they thought I could solve their puzzle. They seemed to think I was the answer. Dude, I am definitely not the answer. I've got ideas. I can put band-aids on stuff, but I don't have the fucking answers. Writing those songs and performing them was like scream therapy. It felt good to have a good cry in my Haagen-Dazs. It helped me work through my own issues. You can do that too. Go get some ice cream and cry in a corner. If you make me responsible for moving that piece in you, then I'm responsible for it all the time. But you can do it yourself. That's the whole message." So it seems that Maynard wrote his songs in order to express his emotions in a very cathartic way, and then be able to go through some sort of spiritual healing process. If the listener goes through some sort of healing process themselves, then that's great. But he doesn't really seem to understand some of the fanaticism towards him as an individual. And plus, really the way he has often talked about himself, it doesn't really seem like he's the kind of person that feels comfortable receiving godlike adoration. I myself haven't really liked every other Tool fan that I've met. There's can be a lot of douchebaggery amongst Tool heads. Hello, Future Self here. This was the point of the video in which I was going to mention a few examples of when I thought other Tool fans were a little insufferable, but I decided to cut that out. Aside from noticing that I was stretching a little too far to come up with examples, not that I couldn't, I also came to the realization that I could pretty much do this to other fan groups of other artists that I listen to and don't. I can think of many other insufferable assholes that listen to other bands and not Tool and want to shove their music down my throat. Which leads me to the question, Why all the more recent hate towards Tool fans specifically? This has made me think of possibly making a whole video surrounding the topic of Tool fandom and a lot of the negative viewpoints towards Tool fans. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, if anybody's watching. As has been pointed out already, fans often think there's a lot more spiritual and philosophical meaning behind his songs, without ever listening closely to the lyrics or doing a deep analysis by themselves of what the actual message is. And often there's a lot of humor that is missed in Tool's music. One reason this happens is that the music itself on the instrumental side can be epic sounding, sophisticated, complex, and dynamic, that the lyrical message can get overblown or missed. That's not to say that Maynard isn't saying anything significant, or that you can't attach whatever meaning you want to any song, or that the songwriting is not genius, but much of the discussions about Tool's music can be taken into areas that have little relevance to the song. There's a lot more missed when fans try to take Tool's music a lot more serious than what it really is.
When I talked to my buddy Brendan, he was like, when the fisting song came out, I'm like, what do you mean fisting? Their big hit was about fisting.
Actually, it was, but it wasn't. It was about completely losing touch with just being just needing to have so much stimulation. You've lost touch with how much stimulation you need to be stimulated.
Right. The lyrics definitely speak to that.
The fisting was the joke part. The fisting was the throwaway joke part. But the actual meat of something like that was about like, guys, you need to get back in the field and start digging some holes or shoveling
take
some
your
snow.
arm out of that guy's ass.
Yeah, and go shovel some snow. Wash your hand first, because I don't really want to pick up a shovel with shit all over it.
Right, and I get the message of that. But he was like, that, you don't understand, man. That was like, that was on regular radio. And I'm like, well, how did I, and so now I got to go really sort of assess the
Now I got to go look up the shit butt fuck song.
An example of a Tool song taken way out of proportion is Lateralis. A lot said about the song and the possible meaning behind it and the incorporation of the Fibonacci sequence, but this is what Maynard had to say about it on the Joe Rogan podcast.
In a way, a song like Lateralis with the Fibonacci thing, I feel like I kind of pulled a very pedestrian, sophomoric move by including those numbers in there, because in general, music is the phi ratio. Everything that all nature, all these things we're talking about, it's already here. By pointing it out, like staring at it and pointing at it with those numbers present, and the way that the numbers and the lyrics are, I feel like that, it's good to let people know about it, but I almost feel like it was kind of a dick joke in a way. It's I could do better.
Notable how Maynard here recognizes that it was himself that perpetuated the hyper interest in songs like Lateralis by pointing out the supposed secret that is going on behind the songwriting. Let's not forget how in the past Tool made up how their songwriting was inspired by the made-up concept of lacrimology by the fictional author Ronald P. Vincent, making their fans want to put puzzle pieces together to something that really didn't exist.
When you first got the band together, there was a particular book that inspired you about the study of human pain. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
The book written in late 40s by a guy named Ronald P. Vincent, and the best active explanation I could give is just what you hear on the records. That's kind of like an example, a practical application of those kind of principles. We're actually going to release the book, and we were in the process of releasing it when a family member showed up and gave us a cease and desist letter, because we didn't think there was a copyright holder anymore. We thought that he had no family left, and we couldn't find a copyright. And we're going through litigation now to actually prove that this person is in fact family, and if in case she's not, then we can just release the book, and if she is, we need to buy her out, because I don't think she has any cash at all to really put the book out. I think it really needs to be out there.
There have been other instances here and there where Tool and or Maynard have seemingly left puzzle pieces for you to want to put everything together, with the hope that you'll find something of mystical value.
Look, I'm a member of the community, but I've had some humorless discussions about the Fibonacci sequence with Tool fans. All due respect, glad you're all here. I'm a part of you. Did you ever want to find some people with a bit more of a sense of humor? I mean, not that I am a Tool fan, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, the thing is, most of those tracks
there's humor sewn into many of them. Of course. People just right over their heads. So they're so busy counting. God bless them. I guess it's my own fault, really. If you put down too many puzzles, that people just they go full QAnon, Toolanon.
Yeah. What's your favorite hidden joke in a Tool record?
Nice try.
Yeah, I was gonna. What am I going to do?
With all this being said, I think it's important for Tool fans and Maynard fans in general to realize that it's just music. It's okay to use the music as a catalyst to reach whatever state of consciousness you want to reach, or to just be merely entertained. But remember, the artists who did all that work don't owe you anything else. And whatever healing you still need to do is really up to you. In light of many rock stars spiraling into a train wreck ending and many celebrities sharing their mental health struggles nowadays, maybe there is something that we can learn from Maynard James Keenan. He certainly does seem to be a lot more of a well-adjusted person when compared to your typical celebrity, and has the ability to do many different things in different facets of life and do them well. Clinging on to one thing, whether that be your art, your job, your relationship with others, money, religion, etc., will not work as your only answer and guide through life. You have to venture into other realms of life in order for each of those realms to make a little bit more sense of each other and to re-energize each other. Your art is a reflection and a celebration of surviving the hardships of life, which you have to put yourself through, or else your art will lack in quality. In turn, one must spend time doing art in order to escape the grueling, tiring grind that can make life seem difficult. Maynard is also a lesson that things will take time to really settle in their rightful place. From being in the army, to art school student, to pet store worker, to set designer, and then finally, songwriter / performer / winemaker / martial artist / entrepreneur. Maynard is an example that one has to go through many trials and errors and put themselves in vulnerable states of mind to reach a wavelength within us that will eventually result in the best version of ourselves. And I think that having made this video, I in turn have ensured that I'm one of those fans that Maynard will never want to meet. Thank you so much if you made it this far into the video. I actually have no idea when I will upload my next video. It took me a long time to make this one. This was the first video like this I've ever made. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe, and catch you guys next time.